Hello, everyone. Hello, Chandler. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Can't
Doing
complain.
well. Looking good, man. Looking super sharp today.
From time to time.
Got that sort of Southern gentleman kind of vibe going on. It's all part of that Robbins charm, right?
You know, hopefully.
Good stuff, man. Well, today we are talking a little bit about our favorite topic, commissions, and more specifically, how brokers make their money. Because I think there's a lot of, well, we hear it a lot, right? A lot of the prospective clients that we have, and even clients that we end up never actually working with, they say, oh, all brokers are the same. They're just, list my business, you're going to, never think about it, and you're going to collect your commission and walk away. And you sort of, what I found just in conversations is that so many people conflate what they see in real estate with what things sort of look like on the business brokerage side of things, which is similar but different. So let's kind of start the conversation off with what is typical from a business brokerage perspective. What is a typical commission, and how does that typically run from the buy versus the sell side?
Sure. So just like in commercial real estate or residential real estate, you kind of have a range of commissions, and you can see that anywhere from 2 to 7% when the market's well. Well, with business brokering, I would say the industry standard is between 8 and 12%. There are different ways to come to that number. There are brokers that are going to do it for less. There are brokers that are going to do it for more. I am a big component of you get what you pay for. You absolutely get what you pay for in this industry. And I wish people had less of a concern about commission and more about end results, because I think that ultimately is the client's issue with the commission, is that you get this large number, and then what did I get for it or from it, right? Because most brokers are going to just make you sign the commission or fee agreement, post your website on a website, let it sit there for a few months, and have someone come and reach out to them, and then they're going to close the business and collect a large fee. And I think it's not so much the fee as it is the results that are being driven. But typically 8 to 12%, like I said, you're going to see a broker sometimes do it less, sometimes do it more, but that's pretty much the industry standard.
Now, when you say 8 to 12% for a seller out there, is that the entire commission? Does that represent both what a buy side broker and a sell side broker are doing, or is that just one side of the equation?
Yeah, that's going to be the total commission, which is kind of a great impasse into why I collect a larger commission than some, is because I am willing to co-broker. Not all business brokers co-broker. We at Robbins Pellegrino, we co-broker. We don't mind sharing. So if I have less to share, then I can't motivate another broker or another person as much as if I'm, collecting that 8 to 10%, then I've got enough to go around. Because ultimately, it's about the purchase price. It's about making all the parties in the transaction happy. That includes the buyer, seller, and the broker. If we were to list a business at 3%, I'm going to be a lot less motivated to do anything with it. I am just going to throw it up on the website. I'm going to do a few email blasts and let it sell itself, because there's really no room for me to co-broker or to get anybody else involved. But if I'm taking a larger commission at that 8 to 10%, then I'm able to give it out here. I'm allowed to talk to other brokers. There's more. There's just a larger spread of people that I can get involved in the transaction. Whereas if I'm 3%, I'm not able to do that.
For sure. I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's incentive structures, right? And it's the same thing in general society, right? Like if people are, not to get political, but like you think about things like universal basic income and sort of spreading the wealth. Well, if people aren't motivated to make more, then they're just going to do the bare minimum. Like that's just how it is. It's just that's how the human mind works, and we are certainly not we're not an exception to that.
Sure.
You know,
And
I
I
mean,
think it's a really good, safe. This is how I start every conversation with any potential client when we talk about commission, and that is whatever their industry is, whether they're providing a service, whether they're running a restaurant, whether it's a HVAC company, insert whatever it is. they're providing a product or they have a business. We're no different, right? Even though because our business is service is rendered, basically, I don't want to cheapen that fact. So I would never ask them to discount their service. And therefore, I don't really have much patience for people doing that to me. And it's because we're able to give them a much better exit. Ultimately, paying us equates to a larger end result for them. And that's why I rarely negotiate with commission. However, I also say, and Joe, you're learning this as we've partnered together, is that I don't lose a deal on commission either. I'm always open for a conversation. It's not a slam your door in the face, I want 10%, but understand there's a reason we ask for that 10%. There's value in it. And therefore, it's going to have a pretty good circumstance, pretty good reason as to why we come off of that.
For sure. What's funny is that I think with a lot of business owners and prospective sellers is it's not so much the percentage, it's that they think about the percentage and they think, well, wait a second. My business is listing for $10 million and he's getting 10%. He's getting $1 million to sell. And I think that's, they almost get hung up on like, how come you get $1 million?
Sure.
How come we get $1 million?
The simple thing is, right. Well, and I love this because this is real life. This has happened, right? It was about a year ago. I sold a business and that commission figure was $1 million. And it stopped, right before going to contract, right before we're all about to sign on the dotted line. He goes, I don't know if I can do this. I said, what's wrong? He goes, I don't know if I can give $1 million. I know you're important, but $1 million. And I said, listen, do you want the other 19 you're about to get? And we kind of had this come to Jesus meeting where he realized that I was absolutely the key piece to bringing both parties together, that it was my long-term relationship with the potential buyer, and that it was the effort that I was putting for him. And we ended up talking every day because his deal took 9 months. And for 9 months, we spoke every day. And he was able to learn through the process why I was worth that $1 million to him. And there were multiple times afterwards, after it closed, after everything got finished, that we circled back around with each other. And he said, listen, Chandler, I couldn't have done it without you. And the deal never would have happened without you. So you're worth whatever you want. And I'm going to tell anybody else that we work with that you're worth whatever you want. Because when he called, I answered the phone. If I wasn't sleeping or, at a funeral or in a wedding, I was on the phone with him. I made special trips. I walked him through the stuff that had everything to do with business brokering. And then I walked alongside him with everything else. Over the course of 9 months, both set of his parents had really bad health issues. And he was in the middle of trying to get all of our due diligence material. So I was making weekly trips to 5 hours away from where I lived to sit with that, to sit with his parents, to do. So that commission is about a transaction, but it's also about a relationship. And that's where I think we're very different than probably everybody else in the industry. We're not after a dollar. The dollar ends up as a result of us doing a great job taking someone to exit, but it's also about relationship. We still talk today. So I told him we probably could have had a cheaper relationship. I mean, $1 million is a lot, but I'm glad to count him as a friend. But ultimately, that's what makes us different.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, like you said earlier in the conversation, at the end of the day, this is a service that we provide, right? And it's sometimes difficult for prospective clients to wrap their head around the idea of this being a service, right? But that is the meat of it. That's how this all gets done. It doesn't get done without us from the service component.
100%. And really and so providing a service costs dollars. And that's why some brokers, they ask for a retainer, and that retainer can be $1,500 or it can be $20,000. I've seen it everywhere in between. We don't ask for a retainer at Robbins Pellegrino. I think that sets us apart. And it's really, but that doesn't mean our service doesn't cost us dollars, right? So if I were to just, ad lib how much our monthly costs are, right? We've got staffing, we've got all the different marketing and materials and everything else that goes into putting a listing together. We've got our time, and none of that really gets quantified until the end of a transaction, right? But there are monthly costs, just like our potential clients have monthly costs associated running their business. So do we. And sometimes that gets lost in translation. I feel like they just see us as broker A and broker B, but not as someone who's running a business as well. And
Mhm.
therefore, we're covering all those costs, whether your business takes 30 days to sell or 12 months.
Mhm.
And that's another reason why brokers ask for the commissions they do. And that's why we are a firm believer in that 8 to 10% mark, is because we provide a bunch and we don't ask for anything upfront.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that there are a lot of brokers out there that create a reputation that does make people double think about, oh, are you actually worth it, right? I got off the phone with a guy earlier, a
Mm.
prospective client, and he's telling me about a business that he wants to list, and he's telling me that he listed with a broker for over a year. His listing contract ended in September of last year, and he's like, this guy, I mean, I honestly don't even know if he did anything. He probably just slapped the listing up on Biz Buy Sell and waited for anybody to come. I mean, at the end of the day, when you've got brokers out there that are sort of handling things from that perspective, yeah, I mean, the average business owner is going to be like, yeah, what are you going to do for me, right? But that is where we are so different. And again, not to beat a dead horse on this, but we bring a different sort of face to the whole thing. I feel like, I mean,
Sure. I mean, we're
we're
both
both,
under 40. So,
yeah, we're both under
yeah.
50. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
We're both under 60. I
right.
mean, the average age of a business broker is 60 plus. They have their wife answer their calls. And then they take a 10% listing and sit on it for months at a time. So you've got to understand the average broker takes a listing agreement, and at the short end, it's 6 months. And at the long end, it's somewhere between 12 and 15 months. That's how long they want a listing. We don't take our listing agreements are 90 days.
Mhm.
And the reason we do that is because I am confident that if we take a listing, then we're going to be able to sell that business. And therefore, that's why we're going to take the 8 to 10%, because we're not holding you down. We're not holding you hostage for 6 to
Right.
12 months. It's 90 days of, can we do it or can we not? And if we can't, then I'm going to personally apologize to you and help you either connect with another broker or tell you what I can do somehow to continue helping you by releasing you of my contract, though. Because if I can't sell your business in 90 days, it's ultimately I didn't do my job. We didn't do our job, right? And that's what makes us different. I'm not trying to pin you down for 6 months to 12 months. It's what can we do in 90 days? And I'm confident that if I take your listing, then Robbins Pellegrino is going to be able to sell it, and therefore it's worth a premium price.
It does us no good to sort of fill up our listing board. Like that does us no good, right?
I have zero desire. I mean, if
No.
you asked 100 other brokers, they're going to take listings day in and day out. They're going to give you this marketing quote. I have 100+ million in active listings. I don't care.
No, why would that matter? You
Right?
haven't you haven't sold them. I mean,
No, and I don't really quote too many of my numbers, but I have over 275 million in closed transactions,
transactions.
right?
Yeah.
Those matter a little bit more, but here's what I would tell any prospective client. That's good for me. That shows that I have been successful in the past. But I know ultimately for that potential client, the client that's just signed on, they want to know, what can I do for them now? What can we do for
Right.
them now? What can Chandler and Joe do now?
Right.
So really my favorite number is the next one, right? And that's whatever that potential client's business is listed for, whether that's $1 million, 500,000 or 12 million. That's the one that gets me excited because that's the one I'm actively working on. And that's the one that I'm putting all my effort in to change that from a listed number to a closed number, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's what I love about what we're doing. It's just so in line with it's in line with the way that you and I work generally, right? Like this business, this new partnership that we've come together on is sort of the product of our collective passions and also our values, right? The things that we count important. And this is a key piece of all of it. We're not here to blow smoke. We're not here just to sort of we're not here to put notches in our bedpost. That's not. What does that do for us? I mean, literally nothing. It doesn't give us dollars if we don't sell them.
true. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we have reached a collective success that ultimately we can be picky on
Yeah.
who we bring on board, what listings we take. And that's not a looking down on someone's business that may not qualify for us. That's we have great referring partners. We have ways to help them, but it just means that I'm able to focus. We're able to focus on every listing we get, because we're not bogged down with 300 other ones, because we have decided to pick 50 that we'd like to focus on, right? So it's definitely quality over quantity for me, and always will be.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately gets a better result for the client when we can kind of hone in on each listing instead of just taking a shotgun approach.
Always, always. What is your what was your favorite listing that you ever represented off the top of your head?
My favorite, listen, I could answer that question 100 different ways. I mean, ultimately, I was part of a listing that was a series of gas stations that was $140 million deal, and just the pure size of that got me excited. I mean, I can't explain to you how much goes into a 16-month deal. Right? It took over a year to close, and I told myself, and I tell others, that I had a career in 15 months, because everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Everything that could happen went wrong. There was a million different things from both the real estate side and the business enterprise. That's my favorite. But then my very first one, which was not even a business listing, it was a listing for wetlands. It was my grandmother's 2 acres in our backyard of where I grew up, that she needed to sell. And that was my favorite, because it was my first, and then it connected me with my grandmother. And it was kind of poetic justice that was my first listing. Made $700. But it was the $700 I turned in, and then took it from there. So, but then
awesome.
they're all my favorite. I love all see, that's the issue. Every listing is connected to a client.
Yeah.
And I become friends with my clients. I still talk to 95% of the clients I've ever closed with. And that's really my favorite part, is that human connection.
And
The transaction happens.
That's the thing, though, that, obviously, that shows what's important to us. That shows all that stuff, right? But what it also shows on a much more practical level is that we're not doing ding dong ditch. We're not trying to offload you and then run away because we threw you to the highest bidder, right? We actually care about what it is that we care about you and your business, and we care about what that transition looks like. And that's why we become friends with our clients, right? From that perspective. And it's, we're not just trying to sell you and leave.
No, and often, often in the industry, brokers collect their money and run. Day of closing, see you later. Oftentimes, there is so much more work left to do for that potential, for the seller and the buyer, right? There's a transition period often. If they're into a new industry or a new location, they may have some additional questions because there's training that's involved, right? The seller often trains the new buyer for 30 days, 60 days, 6 months. Some brokers are saying, "Hey, good luck for that." And they don't even aren't even a part of that. I walk through all of that. We walk through all of that. I'm working a deal right now where we are spending more time. We haven't even got to contract. We're in the middle of collecting LOIs, but ultimately, this is a kind of change your life listing for the gentleman. When he sells something that he's been working with for 40 years, he's going to have a substantial amount of money that he's really worried about his tax mitigation. So I've got me and my financial planner driving to Mississippi to meet with him, and I'm already planning on what I'm going to do post closing to help him. So I'll probably be involved with him for 2 or 3 years post closing, but I'm only collecting dollars on that front half, right? Most brokers don't do that. That they're on to the next one, or they don't care enough to see it all the way through. And I'm just not going to leave something halfway finished. It doesn't matter if I can get someone $105 million if he's going to have to give 50 million of it to the government. I've got to be able to walk him through tax mitigation and all of that.
Yeah. That's fantastic, man. I love that your first transaction was with your grandma. And we just came up on the anniversary of her death, correct?
Yep, just a few days ago. So I mean, so it's just those stories now that still connect. Makes my heart happy. And she was very proud of me. because my grandfather owned a business and he was in the commercial construction industry for 50 years. And when I told her I was getting into real estate or business brokering, she didn't really understand it. And she goes, well, she always would tell me, Chandler, when are you getting a real job? When are you going to go get a real job? And I am happy to say that after about 275 million in closed transactions, she stopped asking me that question.
Yeah.
So I know
did it,
that
Graham.
she's up in heaven happy to know that I got a real job. So
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's actually one of the ways that we kind of bonded a little bit, sort of early on, because
yeah.
I'm a big grandma guy. My grandmother died. Gosh, we're coming up on, could it be 4 years? Wow, 4 years in July. And
4 years.
man, she was the best. And I
Yeah.
really hope that she has met your grandma up in heaven.
Oh no, they're
They
having a
would
good old
definitely.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's there's
You're gonna get
nothing.
me to preaching here in a minute if you don't
I
quit. That's my other
know.
job.
Really, we should really just take a couple of seconds to talk about that, because that really is so unique that
Mm.
you are a business broker and a partner in this firm, and you're a pastor. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that, because that's why you're in a suit and tie, not because you're with any kind of client or anything like that. You just done a
Sure.
funeral.
No, there was a funeral today. I presided over a funeral today, right before this meeting. So it's very unique yeah, that you see a business broker and then someone who's a pastor. So I'm a United Methodist pastor, and have been for 3 out of the 5 years that I've been in business. And part of this partnership with Joe is so that we can kind of allow me to be high level, so that I can both do what I need for the business and still serve the church appropriately. What I have found, though, is it is such a blessing. And I truly mean that in every sense of the way. Because whether my clients are religious or not is unimportant. It's that I'm going to bring that same level of authenticity and trust and honor and loyalty to this business brokerage world that is really lacking it. If I tell you something, I'm going to tell you the truth. If I tell you that I need that 8 to 10% commission, it's because I do. It's because I'm valued and there's worth in it. It's not because I'm just trying to make a buck off you. It's because I'm going to do right by you and you're going to do right by me. But ultimately, one of my favorite, just a quick story, is I had been working with the client for 3 or 4 months. We had several of his gas stations under contract, about a $10 million deal. And he was worried about some different things. Then he just called me randomly, and I thought it was going to be some due diligence issue or some issue with, environmental compliance. Nope. His daughter was having some real issues, and he actually called me for some pastoral advice. It caught me
Wow.
way off guard. We had never talked about God or religion or anything before. He just said, hey, I remember you saying you were a pastor at the beginning of this process. I've got some questions. And when my worlds can combine like that, when I can bring business clients and I can bring the church together, there is no happier place than in my heart in that moment. So yeah, it's very unique. I love it, and I would have it no other way. But I definitely think it's a strength of Robbins Pellegrino. If anything, I often start conversations with clients when we're doing an introduction call. I will answer every phone call you ever give me unless I'm doing a funeral and a wedding or leading a church service, right? So that's kind of the caveat. They know they can't really get me on Sundays, but everything else I'm available. So yeah.
I love that, man. That's part of the reason that I was so excited to come together, and why our relationship has strengthened. And I think that we're in a really unique position, being in such a classically greedy industry, and being the strong believers that we are, and you specifically being a pastor. I'm not a pastor, just disclaiming that right now. Um, but I think it is such a unique place for us to be in. But for me, and we've talked about this so many times, for me, the sort of rolling blessings that come from it, will come from it, have come from it, are just so significant. Just, even in situations like you had with that one client, where you were able to sort of provide some pastoral care, just being able to represent the gospel, not because we're trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. That's not what we're looking to do, right? But that we can sort of represent in that way. And then ultimately, yeah, we're, as business brokers, we do a lot of dollars in transactions. And guess what? we invest those dollars into
Sure.
ongoing blessings for others, right? You've got your foundation. I'm working on something
I
over
was
here.
about to bring that whole statement up. When I got into business, it was through a prayer, and it was, Lord, let me make it so I can give it away. So I don't always share that with every client. I guess now that the whole world will know, but that's pretty much that's really a guiding principle for me, is that I ultimately wanted to make it so that I could give it away. And I give that away to the local church, to other organizations, through my foundation. There's a myriad of different ways, but ultimately, when someone gets shocked and awed by that $1 million commission, understand that a large percentage is being given to somebody else. And that's because I got into this to be a blessing to others. I love business brokering. I love the clients. I love the transaction. I love getting in the middle of the finances. I love the negotiation. I love all of it. I even love the end when we get paid, but I love it most because I'm ultimately able to give it away. And I'll stop before I really do get to preaching. But I think it's a big thing and an important thing for others to know is our Robbins Pellegrino is just so not rooted in selfishness. It is so rooted in being others focused. We want to take care of our staff. We want to take care of our team. We want to take care of our communities. And ultimately, our success is other people's success. And that's going to be a guiding principle from now till the day I'm gone. So,
yep. Amen, man. I love that. It's so energizing. I didn't really plan for us to take this episode this way, but I mean, that's
yeah, sorry.
No. But that's the thing. Like, this is just us. This is who we are. This is how we do things. Yeah. So good stuff. All right. Well, let's start wrapping this up here. Just sort of reviewing. We talked a little bit about how brokers get paid, what brokers are ultimately doing to earn their keep, what we specifically are doing, and how we're a little bit different, and why we kind of do what we do. If you're a business owner that is interested in selling their business, as we do in every single episode, we recommend that you get a valuation. If you're doing $2 million a year or more in your gross annual income, we do no cost valuations for that. So you can reach out to us through our website, robinspellegrino.com. And get that conversation started. We'd love to hear about your business, what you're ultimately looking to do for it. It's totally, in a sense, it's non-committal. There's no obligation to ultimately list your business, but getting a valuation is really your first stop to determining whether your business is saleable at the moment, whether this is the right time for you, and ultimately, we're gonna tell you what we really think we could get for your business, right? We're going to tell you, fair market value, but also based on our expansive buyers network and what all we know about the individual industries, what ultimately we think you could actually get for it. So that first stop is valuation. But otherwise, Chandler, thanks a lot, man, for hanging out today. And
yeah, always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a good time. So we'll see y'all.